Thank you all for coming back, because people were worried that folks are not going to come back. So it's good to have a very diverse panel of folks from banking, from service, from manufacturing to, I don't know how to describe you, which you will do yourself. So I have just 3 questions. One will be sort of backdrop of all these gentlemen and ladies on the podium on what their background has been related to this topic. Second will be specific to something that I'll ask them. And the last one will be lessons that you can take away. So I'm just giving away the questions so that you can, expect what to happen. So I think, let me start with yourself and just provide us a backdrop to this whole label of transformation and business model, not just in your current job, but even historically, whatever you have appreciated, experience, and so forth.
Sure. Thanks for that question, Pankaj. So yeah, basically I have been working with banks as a consultant or in banks for most of my career, right? So the way I have seen banking transform, banks have been one of the first industries to use data science in some form, right? The first credit scorecards probably came in the 1960s. So since then, banks have been using data for decision making, across lending, liabilities, assets, and so on, right? So what has changed? I think a few things have changed. One is the competition, right? So right now, our competition is not just banks. There are fintechs and younger generations who are exposed to the Amazons and Netflixes of the world. They expect the same responsiveness, the same user experience from their banks as well. So from that standpoint, there was a survey done. Most people said they would readily switch their bank if Amazon or Netflix were to start a bank. The other thing is the abundance of data. So there has been a lot of increase in data. We now have apps. Earlier, people used to go to branches. You have apps, you have the website. So there's more data to do analytics and AI on, right? That's another thing that has happened over a long time. Cloud is another thing that has changed our industry a lot. Compute, which is still expensive, but now you have the option of having compute on for a very short time on the cloud, which means you can run more models on the cloud. You don't need to own the hardware, so on and so forth. So there is a lot of cost implications and benefits as a bank. The last thing I would say is the ability to actually manage data itself has undergone a sea change in the last 2 decades. So all the technologies like big data. So when earlier storage was expensive, compute was expensive, all the costs are coming down. So with all of these happening, and the other thing is a lot of data is now unstructured. So that's where the newer tech like Gen AI also helps in dealing with unstructured data. So broadly, I think these are the changes that I've seen in our industry over the last 2 decades. Yeah.
And Ganesh, you have worked in smaller companies like Musicma and Capillary. You worked in the US, in Dell and Bharti, and now ServiceNow. So you have just seen so much. So tell us what you see.
You're just reminding me I'm old. Yeah, I am old. I am 57. I started my career at Dell, post Michigan Business School, in the dot-com boom, right? And I joined in Austin. And for the first few years, the only people who made money out of internet was Dell and Cisco. And same thing is happening now. The only people who are making money right now or seeing any real ROI is data center companies and NVIDIA, right? So we haven't really seen any money from AI or Gen AI, which is true, but it's okay. I think, you saw how internet benefited the whole new generation, and these things are coming. In general, any new technology, we overestimate the immediate benefits, we underestimate the future benefits. That was Roy Amuro said. And after coming to ServiceNow, which is an AI company, I learned few things which I thought I'll share with you. One, there is no artificial intelligence without human intelligence. That's the first thing I would put out there for your thinking. Second, the real intelligence, which is of any use, any ROI, is only going to come from connected enterprise data. Lots and lots of enterprise data. Real intelligence doesn't come from ChatGPT. Only better email writing comes from ChatGPT, right? So real intelligence is got, deep insights into data. And the third is all this intelligence is wasted if you don't put it into action. It'll just remain as PowerPoints and nice Power BI reports if there is no action on this data. And finally, in a country of 1 billion people, the value of any of this AI technologies cannot be about efficiency. If you look at 90% of everything which we are doing is about how to reduce people and increase efficiency. That is a non-starter where it comes to this, right? So let me bring it to life with an example. How many of you have an IT help desk in your companies? How many of you have IT help desk? Very few. Really? I'm sure all of you have IT help desk. How many are actually happy with IT help desk? Oh, really? You run one of your companies?
She runs
okay. You run the IT help desk. It's really a painful thing if you look at it, right? I met a big SI company, head of everything. They have 300,000 employees, 5,000 IT help desk people, 300,000 tickets a month, and still nobody is happy, right? Imagine if the AI technology was used to have everybody having a personal butler of an AI agent who checks your Wi-Fi, who checks your laptop, who checks your printer, if everything is wrong, fixes it for them, and communicates to you, make sure that the servers are running fine. Absolutely doable. But that's not a Gen AI application. Part of it is Gen AI, but really needs connected data and insights into connected data. It needs access to your monitoring systems. Those are where the real value is going to come from, right? Anything where it's talking about call center automation, I've got, text to voice, write better emails. All that is interesting. Those are the shiny objects I also saw in the post-dot-com era. And the dot-com bust after that. Then everything else happened. I think my view is that there's a lot more maturity needed. It's good to see everybody talking about AI, but the real value is only going to come from connected data and action.
Thanks, Ganesh. Your opening remarks reminded me of someone told me in the gold rush, people who made money who were selling shovels. So we have to always figure out the shovel business in any new technology.
Those who don't learn from history are condemned to repeat it.
So Madhavi, manufacturing, and you have been in GE and HCG and several others. So how's been the world of manufacturing and what's been your experience in this area?
All right, thanks for the question, Pankaj. I know we had a pre-talk and you said you don't have to stick to the question. So
by the way, so this
I don't think he remembers the question he asked. Ask him that question again.
So by the way, whoever ever has to be either a moderator or a panel, let me tell you what I do. So whatever question is asked of me, I changed the question. I said, I think this is what you probably asked. And I told them, don't worry what I asked. You just have a story in mind and tell that. So maybe you'll see that.
So I will talk about manufacturing, but just a bit about your earlier question on how have you seen this technology kind of change over the years, right? I actually was thinking about it this morning. Is my first love for AI happened in my college. So this was, again, once upon a time. I'm not Mysore, yes. I'm not bold enough to reveal my age like my friend Ganesh here, but yeah, it was once upon a time. We used to call it expert systems. It was actually artificial intelligence. The project was to look at the utility company, the Karnataka Electricity Board, and figure out how you can, I don't know if folks know the concept of load shedding. So we in India are not privileged enough to have 24/7 electricity all through. So the concept of load shedding kind of talks about when can you actually remove electricity in certain areas so that the load is balanced in the back end for the generators to be working efficiently. Now you have to give priority to your public works, your hospitals, your dairy works and stuff like that. So keeping 24/7 electricity on for these entities, how do you then balance the load and shed it automatically across the city so that it maintains its performance of the generators, right? So it was a very interesting concept. And at that time, I kind of thought, expert systems has a lot to offer for the world. I didn't know patting on my back here a bit, I guess. But yeah, that did prove out over the years. But to your question on what has changed, right? I know we talked about the technology advancements and stuff like that that have enabled a lot of the current day AI, Gen AI, but what has also changed is with the democratization and the lower cost that has happened in these areas, it has really kind of first unveiled the potential that this technology has and created a lot of excitement. So the pace has tremendously improved. The reason I took the example of my engineering days is because I think for almost 5, 7, almost 10 years, we didn't see a lot of AI being talked about, and suddenly, boom, it's just taken off. So the concept has existed for a very long time. What has changed is the pace at which it's making strides in the industries across every single industry field, if you will. And the availability, democratization, and the affordability of these has really kind of accelerated the potential that we're seeing today, and that's caused a lot of excitement. Manufacturing, just to touch upon that a bit, is my latest love. There's a lot that can be done in manufacturing from an AI, Gen AI standpoint. Obviously, there's a lot of automation. For us, the higher the time we keep our factories running at the optimal efficiency, the more money we make. As simple as that. The more product we make, the more selling we can do, and the more money we can make. As simple as that, right? So it has a direct impact on our top line and also bottom line, because the most efficient way of running and the least cost that we can run them with have a direct impact on the bottom line as well. So AI and Gen AI play a big role in the operations in the manufacturing. So we're working on some really big use cases that we'll have to use some advanced analytics to ensure that our product availability and the product manufacturing is done at a optimal level. I think this is where we call the lighthouses. World Economic Forum touts about those concepts as well, has set a standard. I think there's a lot of efficiencies that AI and Gen AI can bring to our manufacturing world.
Thanks, Madhavi. So, Guru, you are in a very cool company, and I'll let you explain that. But again, your historical perspective to where you are now.
So, talking about history, I think there was a gentleman in the previous panel who talked about, the cavemen worked on building tools to make things efficient, right? And that's what all of us are doing, including Cognite, my company, building tools that can help us, bring data out and get insights from the same. Right? And that triggered something in my mind, right? In the 14th, 15th century, the German blacksmith Gutenberg, he invented the printing press. And prior to that, books were all handwritten, right? So this automated printing press helped disseminate books across the globe at a very major scale, which was never possible prior to that. And that's really the first IT revolution, so to speak, right? And now here we are today, right, coming back to the present. Each of us have a phone with access to ChatGPT, right? And when ChatGPT was launched in the first 30 days, there were almost about 80 million users who signed up, right? So that's the level of scale in which data is now available readily in the tip of our hands. And so clearly we are in a wonderful intersection of data and more data and compute power and more compute power, right? But that said, I think there is still a long way to go, especially in the industries and companies that I work with closely now and also in my previous companies as a consultant, is though there is a lot of data available, storage became so commodity that data warehouses, lake houses, and ERP systems, you name the systems, you have various systems that all the large companies have, but the data is trapped in silos, right? When you need an information that involves a customer and probably a work order in SAP or Oracle, let's say, you'll have to go to two different systems to extract the same, right? So while having lots of data is a great thing. It's also become very unmanageable now, right? So and again, with compute power, NVIDIA and ChatGPT, everybody said, hey, you need to invest a lot of money to get Gen AI up and running, right? The US companies, they committed to invest almost about $300 billion into Gen AI. And then a few weeks or a few months ago, DeepSeek comes back and says, hey, you don't need GPUs. You can still optimize your algorithms to use CPUs. So, investing on heavy, expensive GPUs is still no longer needed, right? So we are going through a transition phase, and it's not going to be an incremental transition, it's going to be an exponential transition. What's upcoming, I think, cannot be predicted at this point, but it's going to be exciting times for all of us, right? The software companies like mine, the consultants, the banks, the manufacturing industries. That is absolutely for sure.
Thanks, Guru. Madhavi, adoption. This is a topic which is on everyone's mind. So why don't you share your experiences with this?
Yeah, again, another great question. So adoption has many different aspects to it, right? I'll talk about the companies that have existed for a very long time, which is typical with kind of the manufacturing kind of companies and many other companies, right? So there's the aspect of new technology coming in, and it has a direct correlation with the kind of folks that use it, whether it's manufacturing or any of that sort. I mean, you think about the larger picture, right? Think about the folks that end up adopting new technologies in general, not just in companies, but in general. It's the younger generation, the folks that are just off of college that tend to use most of these technologies in and out. And as you go up the radar, if you will, from a generational standpoint, you tend to see lesser and lesser adoption. It's the same phenomena that we face in our companies as well. It's not only just AI, Gen AI, but technology in general, right? And then one of the things we were talking about as preparation for this roundtable coming up is, do we need a structured approach or an unstructured approach to this phenomena, right? I'm not too sure if it needs a very structured approach in the first place. I think it's got to be a combination of two, and really personalizing how we look at exciting folks to use technology to do their jobs better. And then there's the fear factor. I think some of the sessions this morning talked about the fear factor, right? Is this really going to replace jobs, replace humans? And so there's that natural resistance that kind of sets in people's minds. So there's all of these empathetical phenomena that play a role in really adopting these technologies. At the end of the day, if these technologies are not adopted, we don't get the ROI or the impact on the business outcomes that we tend to look at. So while the potential is high, I think a focus on adoption is extremely important. So really creating those change management initiatives, looking at personas, looking at generational aspects, and catering a program on the structured side to highlight the importance of these, bust the fears and the myths, and really kind of educate people on how these things are going to help do what they do in a much better way, in a way that it creates value for the business. And again, I think one of the key takeaways this morning was the human element. So really structuring around that and talking about how it helps the overall impact on the humans as well. The other aspect of the unstructured way of doing it is, I think, really not getting scared with using technologies and getting your hands on it is how I think adoption increases, including myself, for example. When ChatGPT came up or Copilot came up, like, really I have to spend more time, making it do what I need to do, but then, busting my own fear of, let me just spend some time, but lo and behold, it really saved a lot of my time in a lot of tasks that I do, right? So just busting that myth and fear and just getting at it, I think is very important in terms of driving that adoption. So I think there's a structured approach we should take, and there's also the unstructured approach of just making it available, democratizing it, giving it in the hands of people, letting them play with it. And as they discover, there's that natural adoption that will set in as well. So I think as we strategize around driving value, business value, and the human value from these digital technologies, really focusing on how we kind of excite people around adoption is important for sure.
Thanks, Madhavi. So we often heard we are an AI first company. So how do you think about that statement as far as your company is concerned, or yourself, and what are customers looking for? How do you think about that?
So that's a plug for my company, ServiceNow. So it's not an AI company. Our tagline is we put AI to work for people, right? And the reason why we chose that is, which is very, very cool for India. Again, in a land of billion people, my use case cannot be driving efficiency. And I'll give you an idea of what a real use case would look like, or an AI first use case would look like, is hyper-personalization of services to everybody in the country. So how many of you have broadband? Okay. How many of you have called your telecom company about a broadband problem, one-to-one? Okay, a lot of people, right? So broadband is you remember telecom only when the telecoms don't work. You don't remember when it actually worked. When I used to be at Airtel, it was a painful experience to hear people complain. But imagine every one of your broadband link came with an agent bundled. That agent is watching the link. As soon as your speed goes down, it is adjusting the gateway to increase the speed. As soon as you're having jitters or not getting the through, it's doing the auto remediation. And if it is not having you internet access, it knows before you know, it's either rebooting the router or sending an agent home to fix the problem. That is the mass personalization of AI agent, which will happen absolutely in the next 1 year. And that will change the life, right? Imagine how internet changed our lives. Originally, Dell and Cisco made money. Then 4G costs went down, phones costs went down. We all had internet in our hands. Today, internet is part of everything we do. We exercise online, we order food online, we order shoes online, we attend everything online, right? So internet is not where the hardware people made money, the software and platforms people started making money because they started bringing real use cases. I think the real use case will be, in a country of billion people, how can AI democratize services so that it's personally available to everybody? And that would be a big use case for us. And that will drive an AI first economy.
Thanks. So Srivatsa, with regulators and so much of other things in banking, how do the leadership think about or guide you on what to do, what not to do? What are the big initiatives and what are you concerned about?
Okay, when it comes to AI adoption, right, in the banking industry, RBI recently released a report, and more specifically on Gen AI, where banks admitted that only 45% of them are using Gen AI in any form. And most of them are using them as chatbots or assist for employees, right? So nobody is doing, say, generating content for marketing or working on operational efficiency or has customer-facing chatbots. So there are some fears being a regulated industry. One of them is specifically on the generative AI side, there is the fear of indemnification. So what happens if you get sued for content that is created by a model, right? And that's a discussion you have with partners, and there are no clear answers there. So from a regulatory standpoint, people don't want to use Gen AI for generative purposes. They don't want to use it for their core banking operations per se. They might use it as part of the operations with a human in the loop. So from a regulatory standpoint, I think that's the stand almost all of us have taken in the industry, not just banks, but even NBFCs. Having said that, there are clear use cases where we can put Gen AI in front of the customer, but with the idea that if it's not working, then you move it to a human, right? You gracefully exit it and pass it on to a human. So I kind of disagree with Ganesh here. So the contact center is a good use case, which lot of banks and NBFCs are looking at, right? And there is, I think Bajaj Finserv released their annual report where they said that they will save 100 crores across the organization by using Gen AI, and a lot of it will come through efficiency gains, headcount reductions in the contact center, and so on. That's something that is inevitable. It is going to happen. So those are the big ticket use cases where you can actually automate entire departments, put Gen AI in front of the customer for specific problems. So problems like, I want to increase my credit card limit, or I want to cancel my card, so on and so forth, right? These can easily be handled by a bot, and you probably don't even need agents for that. The more complex ones, you can provide assist to the agent. So from the context of the conversation, you can directly assist the agent in terms of what the customer has asked for previously, or in the context of the conversation, suggest a card. So if a customer is asking for, saying that I shop a lot, so which is the best card for me? And these are real use cases that we are seeing. That's on the big ticket disruption side. There's another side to it, which is how do you help improve employee productivity? So there are a lot of people who come to us saying that I have a business requirements document, I need to create test cases. Or I have this whole circular that has come to me, I need to respond to it, and there's a bunch of SOPs I need to go through. Can Gen AI help all of that? So that's where a lot of democratization will happen, where you have low-code platforms like, it could be Power Apps, or it could be any other RPA tool, which can quickly be given access to people, can be given access across the organization, and they use that in combination with some cloud models. So they don't have to train models, fine-tune them. They can use pre-trained models and get a decent result. So it won't be 100% accurate. They still have to go through the output, but it will give that delta 10, 15, 20% efficiency for, at department levels. So those are the two broad areas. I think that's how it's going to disrupt.
So Guru, we are paucity of time, but manufacturing is so vast. So where are you seeing traction on knowledge graph and the stuff that you guys do?
Absolutely. So I'll keep it short. One of the things that I talked about is the abundance of data, right? However, these data resides in various systems within large organizations, and my company works with several of these large asset manufacturers, especially in the oil and gas chemical space, and they have all the best breed software that you can think of, right? Be it the ERPs, the CRMs, sensors, structured data, unstructured data, 3D information, large time series information. But when there is a problem, it takes a lot of effort for somebody to go to these different systems, extract the data, sit down and analyze it, and then make a decision. Let's say there's a compressor that's not working at the optimal efficiency, and now the service technician has to actually go pull up, the vibration, temperature, and other information related to that compressor. And then he needs to go to maybe an SAP kind of system or ServiceNow system to see what kind of work orders were done from a maintenance standpoint. So there is a lot of grunt work to be done to extract this information. But now with Gen AI and agents that we can now spawn, the agent can constantly be looking for these problems, right? And anticipate these problems and predict when things can go wrong. And not only can they predict when they can go wrong, but they can also say how to solve that problem or prevent that problem from occurring, right? Either they can prevent the problem, or if the problem has occurred, they know how to solve it. And not only do they know the solution, agents can actually go and execute those solutions and resolve the problem without any intervention of technicians or humans. And only those exception cases, the severe ones which need some human intelligence involvement, is where people need to now step in, right? And this is a big game changer, especially in hazardous industries and conditions where people work, where a combination of these AI agents and robos are actually doing and performing these tasks and resolving major issues and saving significant amount of money for these enterprises, preventing these downtimes of large assets, right? So this is, so with the data we have and the compute and the robotics all coming together now, we are seeing some science fiction happening in the traditional manufacturing plants.
Thanks, Guru. So one line for each of you. One message that you would like this group to take away from you that they should remember from your experience.
I would say focus on building capabilities through platforms because they are reusable.
My submission would be don't copy the Western model. Really look at your use cases and see how many of them, if you're doing 10 use cases, how many of them are driving efficiency, how many of them are touching the revenue or profitability, and focus on the revenue and profitability use cases, because 9 out of 10 use cases we are seeing is all about efficiency and cutting people. That's a Western model. Please don't copy it.
My takeaway would be take risks while being safe. So with cybersecurity and everything, keep your guardrails, but bust your fear and go try it.
So I would suggest don't do incremental changes, don't do upgrades using AI. Look for complete transformations, right? Chatbot for customer service, great, will provide value, but that's still isolated, right? Look for something that can be done enterprise-wide using AI, and that's going to be the divide between the companies that sustain and the companies that will perish. The Kodak moment for several companies is upcoming. Yeah.
Thank you, Guru, Madhavi, Ganesh, Srivatsa. Thank you all.